DZ and Tim Hauraney here at the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal, literally standing on the track here at Circuit Gilles-Villeneuve. Been talking Ferrari today. Now, they've had tons of success here at this circuit. The last time they've actually won was in 2018 with Sebastian Vettel, and the last time they've won a race, period, was last year in Austria. What is happening with Ferrari?
Yeah, it's not good, obviously. I mean, when you part ways with Mattia Binotto in December and then you bring in a new team principal like Frederic Vasseur, there's going to be a lot of restructuring that happens inside of a race team. It's like a head coach on another kind of sports team like NHL, NFL, NBA. You know, they always want to bring in their people. And so for Frederic Vasseur, it's that restructuring internally that's taking a little bit of time. And that's not weeks or months, it's years. It takes a long time in a Formula One team to kind of right the ship again. I think outside of that, you look at the car itself. I mean, got off to a really bad start. You know, the dynamics of it just were not working for either driver. And then you get into Spain and you have this massive change in philosophy with your aerodynamics. The car looks completely different coming into Canada than it did in Monaco. And so these are massive changes for this team and a massive change in your direction, your philosophy. And so it just takes a really long time to right a ship that's gone in the wrong direction.
Well, speaking of completely different feel, in the Spanish Grand Prix, Leclerc was saying he just felt like he could not trust that thing. Didn't matter what corner he took, it always just felt different, even on the next lap, especially in the race. They just did not perform well there. I know I was asking you earlier in the week, and I want you to get a little more technical with me here. Don't worry, I'm still going to follow. What is really physically happening with this car? What part of it is the one that needs the most work?
There's a lot that goes into an F1 car, right? And especially aerodynamic-wise. I mean, what happens underneath these race cars, that's where a lot of the performance is. With the Ferrari, it was the inconsistency with the tire earlier in the season and how the car was interacting with the tire. Then once, you got into Spain, the tire degradation throughout the span of the race, it didn't really favor them too much, but it was better than previous races. So if you look at Carlos Sainz's first stint in Spain, for instance, actually did a really nice job of not chewing up and eating the tires, where once he started to get into different compounds, the car changed, the balance of it changed, and the degradation of the tire became that much more severe. And so at this moment, it's trying to understand with this new aero philosophy that they've gone in, what is the balance? Do we need to put balance in for it to be just a fast qualifying car? I mean, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Or do we need to put a balance in that's going to be okay in qualifying, but really great in a race?
Well, a team that's absolutely nailed their car, including the floor, that's Red Bull. And as we saw there in Monaco, as the car was getting lifted, Perez is into the air. It's obviously, this has caused a huge discussion in the community, also even in the paddock there, that, oh my God, they've seen the floor of this thing and how complex it is.
Every camera operator was there taking pictures of the bottom.
Yes, exactly.
They made their money. So
exactly, yeah. You get every angle of this thing. And obviously the natural question for a lot of fans was, okay, well, is this really bad? Can they just straight copy this thing? And so why don't you let us know? Because we know that's not the case, but a team like Ferrari, why is it that they're not just going to go look at this picture and copy the floor?
I mean, they will, most definitely. They'll have all of their engineers, with magnifying glasses looking right in on this floor. But the thing is that how would something that Red Bull builds operate on a different race car? It wouldn't. Yeah. You have to restructure your entire car design to support somebody else's idea, but you can generate inspiration from it and try and make things work a little more in your favor. I mean, for Ferrari at this moment, a lot of it is trying to get a lot of air to that rear diffuser, making sure that rear grip is essential for them. And if someone were to copy what Red Bull is doing, we wouldn't see anything on these cars until, I'm assuming, September. That's how long that turnover is to make something like a Red Bull floor.
Well, Ferrari's in a bit of a rebuild, and as you're seeing here, quite literally, they're still building this place for race weekend. But let's get back to the drivers here for one moment. Now, between the two of them, Sainz and Leclerc, things used to be a lot more crystal clear. At least it felt like it with who their number one driver was. This year, Sainz, he has 5 of 7 races, he has the better result. But it's actually Leclerc who has the one podium for Ferrari. In the future, Ferrari, they're going to win again at some point. So out of the two drivers, who do you think will be the one to lift a driver's championship, if it is one of the two?
I mean, you make a great point with, Carlos Sainz's finishes so far this season. He's been spectacular with the racecraft, considering how tricky the car is to drive with the amount of tire degradation that they've been experiencing in the Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc, over one lap, he's brilliant, right? His qualifying pace is magnificent. I think, listening to Frederick Vasseur earlier in the season and having the understanding that, they really want to build this team around Charles Leclerc, I mean, if you're Carlos Sainz, that's really got to irritate you, right? And I think for Charles, I think it's that race pace that he really needs to dig in on and get that up to speed.
Well, it wasn't Leclerc who got P1 last year, or P2, because that was Carlos Sainz. He also had the fastest lap of the race, so he's going to be looking to continue that this weekend in Montreal.